Alright, welcome to my tutorial on creating simple macros in Excel. A macro is a set of automated procedures that is used to complete a task over and over again. It is often used for tasks that are completed on a regular basis. Now, macros can become extremely complex and they even have their own language. However, in this video I'm going to keep it simple and show you how to use the Recorder tool to create macros. To start off, we're going to need to get the Developer tab up here in your ribbon. And to do that, you're going to have to click on File, and go down to the bottom and select Options. In this pop-up box, you're going to have to create Customize Ribbon on the left-hand side. And you'll notice that over here on the right, the Developer box is unchecked. Check that box and hit OK at the bottom. Now you'll notice that over here on the right-hand side of your ribbon, a Developer tab was added. And all these buttons within the Developer tab are used to create and use macros. The button we're really going to focus in on is this Record Macro button. Once we select this button, Excel memorizes every action we make. However, it pays no attention to the time it takes us to complete these actions. Therefore, when creating macros, it's extremely important to take your time and be precise, so you don't make any mistakes within your macro. Now, the macro I'm going to be recording today is a macro to create a report on total department salaries. You can see that in my data I have the ID numbers of employees, the departments that they work for, and the salaries that they make. And I want to create a list of how the total salaries for each individual department. So to do this, I'm going to start off by clicking Record Macro. You'll see a pop-up box comes, and it'll ask you for your macro name. I want to name this Department Totals. It's important to note that when creating a macro name, it must be one word, so there can be no spaces in your name. Now, the shortcut key is the key that when you press it, Excel will perform your macro for you. I'm going to choose the letter D for my shortcut key for this macro. And finally, you can choose where you want to store this macro. You can store it in this workbook, you can store it in a brand new workbook, or you can store it in your personal macro workbook. This is just basically storing it within your computer so that you can perform this macro anytime you open a new workbook in Excel. For simplicity, I'm going to select to store this in this workbook. I'm going to hit OK, and now Excel is recording every action that I do. So to start off, to make this report, I'm going to click on Department, and I'm going to go up to the ribbon and click on the Data tab. I'm going to sort this data from A to Z by selecting this button right here, and you'll notice that now my data is sorted based on departments. Next, I'm going to go up top and click on Subtotals, way to the right. Pop-up box comes, and I'm going to choose at each change in department, I want to sum the salaries. So I select the salary box and hit OK. You'll see here that Excel now totals the salaries for each department. I'm going to click on the 2 that's right here just to clean it up a little bit. And then I want to format this report a little bit. I'm going to double click in between B and C to ensure that the words fit within the cells. And then I also want to add some lines just to make this a little cleaner by going Home and choosing the top and double bottom border for the grand total. Now, the final thing I want to do in this macro is I want to rename this from Employee List to Report on Department Totals. Once you're pleased with the appearance of your report, you can go back up to the Developer tab and select Stop Recording. There you go. Now your first macro has been created. Now, rather than undoing everything I just did to get back to the employee list, I'm going to create one more macro in this video to restore my employee list. So again, we're going to start out by selecting Record Macro. This pop-up box is going to come, and I'm going to title this one Restore. And for the shortcut key, I'm going to select R. Again, I want to store this macro in this workbook, so I'm going to select OK. Now once again, Excel is recording all of my actions. First, I'm going to start out by selecting Department and going to the Data tab. I'm going to go way back over to the right and select Subtotal, which we did earlier. But rather than creating a new subtotal, I'm going to select Remove All at the bottom left hand of this box. Now you'll see that my list is restored. However, rather than breaking the list down by department, I want to break it down by employee IDs. So I'm going to select the ID, click this A to Z button to sort this in numerical order. And finally, rather than saying Report on Department Totals, I want to rename it so it says Employee List. Once you're pleased with the appearance of your spreadsheet, you're going to go back up to the Developer tab and click Stop Recording. And there you have it. Your second Excel macro has been created. Now it's time to try out these macros and see if they work. If you remember, the very first shortcut that we created for the department totals was Control D. So I'm going to hold down the Control button on my keyboard and select the letter D. And there you have it. Excel creates the report on department totals for you. Again, I'm going to hold down the Control button and select R, and that restores our employee list. Now, what's cool about macros is that you can even change these numbers, and the macro will still perform the same actions. So rather, if I wanted to give this person a raise to $200,000, and I hold down the Control button and press D, Excel will incorporate that change in numbers and create that macro using the $200,000 instead of the $100,000. To restore the list again, you do the same thing. Press the Control button and hit R, and again, our $200 salary has remained the same. One thing to be careful about is when adding employees to the list. If I wanted to add a 16th employee to this list, I certainly could. If I wanted to add them to the tax department, and if I wanted to have a salary of $500. Excel will incorporate this number into the macro. However, it will alter the formatting because you added another line to the spreadsheet. You'll notice if I were to hold down Control, press D, that now the lines that I added to the grand total have moved up to the tax total. So, holding down Control and pressing R, if you ever want to add employees to this list, you would have to re-record this macro in order to keep the same formatting that you originally had. Rather, I'm just going to delete this employee. I hope you found this video useful in creating basic Excel macros, and I hope this encouraged you to learn more about macros and all about these useful tools. Thank you.